Yes, people, welcome back to CAS, and we're going to be talking about Manchester United's first signing through the doors, as if we didn't know, Matheus Cunha. And we're going to be talking about why he is going to be a great signing for Manchester United. So tune in. But yeah, look, let's be real. We've been anticipating this. He's going to be on the books and da-da-da-da-da. Talk about all that financial stuff later, you know, when he comes back from holiday, but he's put the pen to paper, and that's all that matters. Because we've been anticipating this for way too long, and now we can move on to our next targets. There's no excuses, right? Right? But yeah, look, man. Look, this is just... it's something we just don't have and that we've been lacking. You know, ever since Xerxes got injured, you can see what we really miss in this team and how much Xerxes was really an important figure. But can you include both of these in the same team? Of course you can. But yeah, look, Cunha's tactical fit and Amram system is needed more than ever. And just as a Manchester United player alone, you know, like, we lack a lot of fundamentals. And when we talk about what we lack in terms of physicals, in terms of technicals, and of course, when it comes to that whole athleticism, which is including the physical, we lack a lot of that. And someone that can pretty much put the ball in the back of the net. Because, you know what? We owe the Premier League goals. But yeah, he's a perfect match for Ruben Amorim's vision. You know, he favours the 3-4-2-1 that we know. We have two dynamic number 10s that we kind of lack at the moment. Just playing behind a central striker. You know, these players need to be versatile. They need to be creative and capable of both pretty much crafting chances out of nowhere and finishing them. Last season, which we want to forget about, when it comes to in front of goal, you know, it's been nothing short of disgusting. Yeah, so enter Matheus Cunha. You know, at Wolves, Cunha, you know, he thrived on the left side of number 10. You know, similar kind of 3-4-2-1 setup. You know, under manager Gary O'Neill before the inevitable happened. And then Vitor Pereira, where, you know, he really did shine. And then according to the Athletic, you know, his intelligence in finding pockets, space, and his ability to carry the ball forward, making him like a natural fit for Amorim's system. It's just... there needs to be more. You know, when it comes to ball carrying, the man's nothing short of electric. You know, he's got that, you know, that audacious flair to glide past players, you know, and defenders, which adds a more of a dynamism, like, what's the word? Dynamism in, you know, United's attack. You know, I think one player that we've seen that does glide quite well past players effortlessly is Ahmad. And then obviously we just mentioned the one previously, you know, to Xerxes, but we need a little bit more. You know, if you think back to what Cunha did to us in the 23-24 season, I think it was the opener where we won 1-0. You know, oh my God, think back to that. He ran rings around Ten Hag's side. He ran rings around the midfield. We could not get close. The fact that, you know, when it comes to that cheeky goal from the direct corner against Onana as well, you know, if you are to lose someone like Bruno Fernandes, then, oh wait, who's going to be your set piece taker? It's going to be Cunha. You know, when it comes to dead balls, obviously, don't you dare. He is definitely someone that you can rely upon, you know, when it's corners, some free kicks. He's got that little something about him. And something that we all need to be drinking is some rival tears. Love, because that's all I'm going to get is salty comments. You know, the guy has a knack as well. I'm just looking at certain stats about him when it comes to through balls, how many he's made compared to other players at Wolves. It's more than double. So, you know, he does want to get forward, you know, and also he can just do a little bit of everything. You know, running beyond the striker, I feel like we lack that. You know, when we cross the ball into the box, who's there to really finish things off? You know, so it's going to be difficult. But if I'm correct, he's got 15 Premier League goals this season, 6 assists to make up for that as well. So that's a 21 GA. Can he do that in a potential better side? Well, we'll see. But he's definitely got the scoring edge, and he's got the vision to set up his teammates for sure. And he's also, like, Premier League proven. Again, something that United have lacked for so many different years. You know, when it comes to credential for this guy, you know, other than entering his prime years of his, you know, of his footballing career, you know, it's a big risk when it comes to the transfer market when you do shop in other leagues. Since joining Wolves from Atletico Madrid, you know, I think he's made 92 appearances, 33 goals in total. I'm looking at the stats right now as well, and then of course, adding on whatever assists he's got it as a whole, right? It says right here, it's 15 goals this season alone, you know. It's like it outshines anyone in this United squad. You don't even need to tell me that. You know, the only other one that you can kind of compare to is the one that's been playing 10/8, which is Bruno Fernandes. So already he becomes pretty much our most designated striker of some sort of goal scorer, right? He's entering his prime, which makes it like the signing of it's a masterstroke. Let's be real, you can't knock this. You can't really knock this. 40 GA in the league since he started last season, it says right there. Proven output. Even when Wolves wasn't even at their best. Like, this isn't even a gamble on potential. It is like, this is a player who's, I'm looking at it right now, it's already delivering at the highest level. Come on, like, compare that to our strikers at the moment. Rasmus Højlund, Xerxes. He scored 4 goals, I think, and 3 league goals, something like stupid. Every time I'm actually looking at certain stats for these players, it makes me feel a little bit more ill. I don't even want to. I don't even want to even get continuing that much. But let's face it, our attack has been a problem last season. Frankly, no European qualification, lack of goals, reliance on Bruno Fernandes to do, pull rabbits out the hat. It's ridiculous. When it comes to Cunha now, he's gonna obviously change that whole narrative. When it comes to his 17 goals and 6 assists across pretty much all the competitions of this season, can he shoulder that attacking load? The Athletic notes that no Wolves player created more open play chances to the higher expected assist tally than Matheus Cunha this season, so of last season, basically. He's not just a finisher, but he's also a creator. Like, as I mentioned before, if you remember, is I was talking about when it comes to making those correct through balls in for the striker or whoever's going to be leading on to that final pass, he outweighs any of those players. There's a lot of difference when it comes to talking about his defensive capabilities, but maybe that's something he might need to work on off the ball. I remember looking at some stats on FB Ref, I'll go up there as well. And when it comes to making interceptions in the final third, he's actually quite high on that list as an attacker. So that could prove to be quite beneficial and a strategic answer. Can he be the one that does what Bruno's kind of been doing this season? Because when it has come to ball recoveries and whatnot, Bruno is quite high on that list, to be fair, on his side of things as well. People do ask, where's the money coming from? After missing out on Champions League, United's finances are obviously reportedly quite tight. And, it's rumored, what, 100 million, something stupid like that for budgets. And obviously 62.5 million release clause, or 62 million, 63. Doesn't matter how you want to put it. But it's going to be 20.8 million up front for 2 years, which would make, if I'm correct, if my maths, 41.6 million in total. And then the rest will be spent in the final year, meaning, that's going to be even more by 2027. Really and truly is going to be manageable by Man United. There's a lot of outgoings that will happen and whatnot, but spreading the cost obviously helps United massively, let's be real, because if we didn't get to do that, then Matheus Cunha probably would have went to Newcastle or somewhere else this season, and we'll be scampering around wondering who that guy's going to be, who's that guy that's going to play that left 10 role. Development for someone like Kobe, you can learn of someone like that. United already looking to offload Marcus Rashford, the high earners. Even Eriksen's off the books now. Pretty much he's going to take Johnny Evans and Eriksen's wage altogether. I don't know how much it was. I think it's about 200k. I don't believe Johnny Evans was on a high wage, but he takes their wage. So it does free up some space, and transfer funds. So stuff like that is just going to, we'll see what happens on that front, So yeah, but his temperament is in question, and I understand that. And I don't have any qualms. I don't have any. I'm not worried about it. Does it make sense? I know he's had his moments. I think Ipswich and Bournemouth was notable as well. Raised eyebrows at his discipline. I've got all the articles behind me right now. Some of the staff felt his work rate was off the ball and could improve. This is what's stated on the Athletic as well. But if you put that into perspective, Cunha's passion is part of what makes him a talisman. And a lot of players, even Bruno Fernandes is not unknown to have that temperament as well. He's a moaner, but he's carried Man United exactly like how Matheus Cunha's carried Wolves' attack, scoring and creating under pressure at 25 years of age as well. You got to remember when Bruno came through the door, how much responsibility he had when Pogba was getting injured. And that's probably what made United fans grow to love him, because he would pop up in those situations. I'm not exactly calling him a Bruno Fernandes, but we'll talk about that another time when more news comes out, if he's going to stay or if he's going to go. You know, the structured system as well will pretty much could channel that fire into the consistent brilliance of what we've been seeing about him. And there's a lot of copium going on about that. But, you know, with leaders like Fernandes in the room, someone who also talks Portuguese, and obviously Amorim talking Portuguese, not that Vitor Pereira never did either, because I'm pretty sure he does, it could kind of benefit his old, like, environment. You know, I feel like he's a diamond that needs a little bit of a polish. And you know what? I'm all for it. We need more players with ego and a fire and desire to win. Because this, if we're being honest, you know, I feel like we lack so much. We talk about culture in the club. The man wants to win. I don't think we're going to be, I'm not bothered by it. I feel like it's this stick that's getting beaten down at Cunha about his temperament is pretty much from a rival's perspective. Because you know what? They're probably jealous about that. You know, the bigger picture as well isn't just about one player. You know, it's about resetting Manchester United's trajectory. You know, after like a hugely disappointing season and seasons plural, you know, even the Guardian put it right there. He said United need a spark. Cunha brings goals, creativity, and the Premier League know-how. He's a statement signing, Amorim's first edition that shows United are serious about rebuilding, you know. And it's also said with the potential sales like Alejandro Garnacho, who could fetch around 50 to 60 million, and interest in other targets like, you know, Marcus Rashford going out the door. You know, United are reshaping their squad for the future. Cunha is a cornerstone of that vision, and you couldn't really said it any better. You know, so there you have it. Look, Matheus Cunha is going to be an absolute brilliant signing. You know, you have to add on to that to make sure this brilliant signing can shine a little bit more. You know, not every responsibility needs to fall on his shoulders, but it makes sense. Getting someone like that is huge. You know, everyone knows that Cunha's a baller. Ballers want to play with ballers. And you know what? Furthermore, on top of that, we need the goals. And I feel like he needs that in his career. I feel like the step up from Wolves to Man United is a big gap. Don't get me wrong. Even if you do say we're mid-table, it's just that he perfects the craft that we desire. And I think he's going to become a fan favorite there. But anyways, people, smash the likes, subscribe if you're new, and also all that good stuff. We'll be back for another video at some point, and a live video talking more about it tonight. So if you catch this on time, there will be a live video 10 p.m. UK time, if not 10:15. Love, and always big up to yourselves.